Hey, what's up, Wealthy Legacy Journeyers? It is Kendall here. Welcome back to another episode of the Wealthy Legacy Journey. I am absolutely pumped to have you guys here today. And the title of today's episode is Planting Seeds, Growing Trees, and Staying Focused. And I'm really excited. A lot of things that have happened this week tie into that title and some of the things that, I've had just kind of like insight on and revelation in a couple things. And, um, I got to have a really cool conversation with a friend this week, going through some stuff. And as I spoke to him, I honestly felt like I was speaking to myself in the season that I'm in as well. And so I'm excited to share all of that with you guys. But right out of the gate, I wanted to share the harder moment that happened from the last couple weeks. And so, as you guys know, in life throws these things we call curveballs sometimes, and sometimes there's setbacks in our journeys towards what we want to see happen, what we think will happen. And so I've had two setbacks, two curveballs this month, and I just wanted to share these with you because I think it's important not to just share the highs of our journey in our life, right? That's what Instagram's for. But to share the real raw, like, hey, yes, there's some really good things going on, but there's some really difficult things that go on too, and to share the whole picture. That's my goal, is to really be honest and real and transparent so you guys can see multiple perspectives of like the good, the bad, the easy, the hard, and the ugly of, the process, but then the beauty in the end. And so for me this month, we had a pretty big car repair bill. The exciting part is we were out of debt and we have some cash saved up. The unexciting thing is it pretty much sucked up most of the cash that we had saved up, and on the between the two of them. So the car bill, we had to change out the control arms and the bearings, and there's still other maintenance that has to be done, but we decided to wait a few months to get that maintenance taken care of because we realized, hey, money in the pocket now to be able to invest now. The car will be okay. And then, hopefully we can flip that money over and then use essentially the free money in a sense, not money that we've had to work hard to save up, but if we can use money, I was explaining it actually to my daughter today, and I thought it was a really good way to explain like money. And I said, baby, the money that daddy works really hard for all day, whenever I go to work, that's my active income. And I called that first generation income. And I explained it to her like, kids, parents, grandparents, and how that generational cycle works. And so I was like, that's the first generation of our money. And then daddy takes that money and he invests that money. And so whenever dad takes his energy and his time and money to make more money, that money that comes from the original set of money, along with, time invested, and that becomes, invested income, that becomes second generation money. And then from there, once you're at second generation money, well, this is basically free money in a sense, right? You took your money and you made more money, and so now you have this extra money. Well, with this money, some of it goes towards, really strong, safe, passive income, and some of it can go towards maybe riskier investments that might have a high payout if you really understand, right? Robert Kiyosaki talks about this. A high risk investment becomes much less risky whenever you really understand the investment. So it's not gambling with our money, but it is a higher risk investment because of the nature of whatever that investment might be. Everybody, does different things. But then the money made from that venture off of the second generation money creates third generation money. So I was explaining to her, for example, because she was asking me why we chose a 1 year warranty on our alignment instead of the lifetime warranty. And I said, well, the lifetime warranty costs two alignments, and I know it lasts a year. And so if I can basically, it was like an extra $100. It was like, if I can take that $100 and I can double that money, well, then instead of paying them $100 and then I'm $100 out of my pocket, I can double that money. And now I have $200. And let's say a year and a half later, all I've done is double my money. Well, I've got $200. I can pay them $100 for the alignment, and I still have my original $100. So I basically got a free alignment. You see how that works? But then let's say I'm able to actually turn that $100 into $300. Well, then in that case, I can pay $100 for the alignment at that time. I can have my original $100 still in my pocket, and I have $100 that I can put in that second generation of wealth area. So now I can invest that maybe a little bit differently, maybe a little bit more aggressively, whatever that might look like. And but anyways, with that said, we had like between the dryer, but we have to buy a new dryer was the other thing. So between having to buy a new dryer and everything we have to do in the car, it was like $970. And so, ooh, did that hurt? Right. Especially as you know, we're saving up right now for emergency savings. We had $1,055 in the emergency fund, and once the emergency fund is filled up, then we can start investing. And if you do the math on 1,055 minus $970 bill, you don't get much left. But we didn't go out and buy the nicest dryer you ever could, right? We went and bought a refurbished dryer that's going to be able to last us for a while. We didn't get a lifetime warranty on the alignment. We said, you know what, that we're going to get a year-long warranty, and we're going to work aggressively to be able to save back up so we can actually surpass what it even costs for that extra amount that they were going to charge for the lifetime. Um, and we got some of the parts changed out in the car. We didn't get all the parts changed out in the car because our mechanic said, hey, this stuff's coming up, but it's not right now. This is what has to be changed out right now to get the alignment done. And so we got all that stuff done and offset whatever expenses we could in the future. Because right now we're thinking, okay, we're going to start multiplying our bits of money, right? And I would love to be able to be in a position where I can basically get those repairs done for free, because I've been able to take my first generation money, turn it into second generation money, and then I can pay for those repairs out of that second generation money, which is essentially free money because it was money made from money. So I would even challenge you, and like whatever is going on right now, you know, how can you apply that, right? When you think about it, like that first generation money coming in, the only thing that that's for is for taking care of your necessary expenses of life, and then you invest it, right? When I say planting seeds, growing trees, and staying focused, that's the planting of seeds, right? Once those seeds start to sprout, then you have to take care of those, you know, trees as they're young sproutlings, and you got to cultivate them, and you got to protect them, right, until they become massive oak trees one day. But then also really staying focused of, hey, you know, these life things came up out of left field, and it really sucks because it took most of our emergency fund that's built up. But we know what, we're going to keep putting money into the emergency fund this month. Yesterday, Liliana asked if we could go eat pizza. We said no. There's lots of things we had to say no to this month, especially being December. It's Christmas time, but there's a lot of things that we had to say no to this year in order to get ahead. And our Christmas budget is very small. Everybody's getting one present, and we are purposely limiting ourselves now so we can unlimit ourselves in the future, right? So wherever you're at, there's going to be curveballs in life. Don't let that throw you off focus, right? But you have to choose to limit yourself now, even when things go sideways from what you would expect, so that way you can unlimit yourself in the future. Another thing I want to share about, just a struggle that I was going through this week, is on the team. There's been some competition building up, and so this month was a really good month. I was able to close several deals or get several deals under contract. A new guy came in that isn't doing the same thing that I'm doing, but something somewhat similar. So it's almost like comparing apples and oranges, and in one sense they're both fruit, but on the other sense they're not quite the same. And I'm very happy for him. He's had a lot of success, but he's been, you know, really getting some. He's been getting a lot of momentum in what he's doing, and it's been a lot for, I think, me and the other guy who's doing the same thing that I'm doing. We're pretty much on par. We're both doing really well as far as like hitting goals that the team is set for goals. He's doing something different, and you know, we've been struggling with that of, how do you handle that? And you know, we only have so many leads. Like we're working our best to convert every lead that we can. I've been going to the Andy Elliott training. I'm converting way more leads now than I was before. If you're doing any sort of type of sales role, I would definitely look up Andy Elliott, because he's intense, but he has some really good training, especially on overcoming objections. And I think he's probably one of the best overcoming objections guys that I've been through training. And I'm really grateful for the free stuff that he puts out on YouTube. So free shout out for Andy Elliott. But with that said, I was talking to Libby and I was like, man, I'm really struggling with this competition. And her thing to me, she said, they're going to try to get you guys to compete, but she said, don't get sucked into their work games as first priority, right? She said they create competition mainly so they can get the engine rolling because they want to be able to make more money as an entire team. Which I think there's a part of healthy competition that is good, but I think also realizing from that perspective as well is a good, secondary perspective. And so I'm not speaking negatively on them in any sense, and neither was she in saying that, but she's right. The purpose of creating this like competition is to get us all just attacking the goals. um but I realized like what I need to really do is focus on my mission statement first and the competition second, right? I need to stay focused, I need to be a tortoise, I need to walk my own path. And so for me, my mission statement, the first sentence is, I will accomplish the impossible within my lifetime with the help of the Lord while also making my family feel like a constant top priority. And so, one thing I can't do is say, well, I'm going to start working all the time to be able to try to pump out a whole bunch more leads than I was doing before, because then my family doesn't feel like a top priority. And so then I'm falling on my mission statement. My mission statement has to come first. I also can't do business in a way, and I'm not saying anybody is, but I can't begin to do business in a way that's shady, right? Not truthful, in any sort of way to try to get more deals and get more contracts to push more through, because then goes against what I believe in and I'm going to accomplish the impossible within my lifetime with the help of the Lord, right? I have to do this whole process in a way that would honor and glorify Him. Um, and so that can be a challenge sometimes whenever you're dealing with money and people and investing. And so figuring out, if there's been a few deals that I've just had to walk away from, and not on this team specifically, but in the past people have asked me to do some unethical things, and some things that were just in the gray, and then there were some things that were very unethical on deals that I had to walk away from. I had to walk away from money because it wasn't, the way we were doing it was not ethical. And so it's a part of the journey. And but in the end, you sleep with yourself a lot better, and that's a wonderful thing. um with that said, I want to read you guys something that I read in my 1 year devotional by oh, let me not mispronounce it. I want to say it was Nikki Gumbel. We talked about this last week. uh let's see. Yep, Nikki Gumbel, getting it. But he had this quote that I read, I think it was yesterday's devotional that I read. He said, Lord Radstock, staying in a hotel in Norway in the mid 19th century, he heard a little child playing the piano downstairs in the hallway. She was making a terrible noise, plink, plunk, plink. It was driving him mad. A man came and sat beside her and began playing alongside her, filling in the gaps. The result was the most beautiful music. He later discovered that the man playing alongside was the girl's father, Alexander Borodin, composer of the opera Prince Igor. God calls you into a relationship that involves cooperation with Him. The Christian faith is primarily about what has been done for you by God in Christ. However, we are not mere spectators. We are called to respond. God involves you in His plans. God comes and sits alongside you, and in all things works for the good. Romans 8:28. He takes our plink, plonk, plink and makes something beautiful out of our lives. And I thought that was so good. Like, just to think, it's like, it ain't all about me. I'm not all that in a butter biscuit. Like, at the end of the day, this is me, even sitting here on these shows, or in these episodes talking. And there's a lot of times where it's just a lot of plink, plonk, plink. But my prayer is that in the midst of all my plink, plonk, plink, thoughts that just aren't probably all really that great, that God does something powerful. And maybe I say one specific thing in an episode that speaks to you, and it's like, man, I needed that. That's going to take me to help me, in this next week of building my wealthy legacy, in my journey to stay on track, to stay on the path. To do things in a way that honors Him, or maybe just to pursue a relationship with God. Maybe you got on here and it was like, you're just getting on here to build wealth. And I think that's awesome. Build wealth, build legacy. I'm all for that. But maybe you're like, man, I haven't really ever explored a relationship with God. I would challenge you to do that, because it's going to make this whole journey 10 times better, 10 times more fruitful. And it's just going to be so, so much more fulfilling. But I want to read you guys something. This is a part of a text I got. I was talking with a friend and going through some difficult stuff this week. As I was talking to him, I even thought about how this could easily apply to my journey. I even thought I texted a version of this to Libby, and I was thinking about her and her becoming me journey. And I thought, really, what I said here applies to so many of us. So I really want you to listen in as I read this text out loud. I pulled out the personal stuff, but I've left all the most important bits and pieces. I believed in your personal transformation. I've already seen so much. You committed to changing and you changed for the better. Excited. I'm excited for this next phase of growth. Remember when that volcano exploded? And let me just take a moment here out of the text. When I say a volcano exploded, we've all experienced this. That's that moment in life where life was going one way and then it left turned on you real quick. That's one of those major curveballs of life where everything just erupted and we hit this huge, like, I don't even know what I'm doing right now moment in life. Excuse me. And so I'm sure that all of us have had our volcano explosion moment in life. And usually we come out of those volcano explosion moments in life a completely changed person, because the events that we had to walk through to get through that season, to get through that moment, to get through that trial were so testing that it changed us in some way. So remember when that volcano exploded? It's back to the text. Well, now you've uncovered a lot of that bare ground, which, like new skin, is very tender, and you've planted a few seeds. Keep planting seeds that you'd like to consume the fruit of in a few years as they grow and begin to produce. Keep caring for them after they sprout, and you might even be surprised by the fruit they produce in other people's lives as the excess fruit falls off of your tree into their lives and plants a new seed there. Here's some quick internet searches for goals in your journey ahead. And so I had some questions that I just typed into Google and got the quick answer. So here's a question. How many seeds does it take to grow an apple tree? Answer. Because not every seed is guaranteed to grow, plant 5 to 10 times as many seeds as you want apple trees. Water and cover the seedlings. After you place all the seedlings in the holes, water the soil in each pot. Okay, guys, that I'm going to pause right there on the text and tell you guys that is huge. They're not saying plant one seed and if that seed doesn't sprout, kick the pot over in a week and go, what the heck? Apple trees must not grow from apple seeds. This is a bunch of hoopla, a bunch of, this is a conspiracy theory that you could get apple trees from apple seeds. I'm done with this crap. And you might think, what? Nobody would ever do that. People do that all the time. And I'm not talking about with apple seeds, but I'm talking about with something like this, right? Even the fact that, like, I've built, up to 6 figures twice and then came crashing back down. And I realized it's a mindset problem. I'm building back up for the third time. I'm planting lots of seeds, right? And it doesn't mean don't stay focused in what you're doing, but it does mean that, hey, not every seed that you plant is going to sprout. This takes time, but eventually you'll get the flywheel turning. You will get some traction. You will begin to build something amazing, but it might not happen the first time. There's really no such thing as getting rich quick and easy, right? A couple people hit it off easy, but the large majority of us, that's not the case. And you know what? My journey for the last 5 years has been so hard, but I am so grateful for my journey because I look back now and realize, wow, what I've been through in the last half decade of my life trying to figure out this whole crazy thing that feels like it's going to drive me insane sometimes is that now I have a story that's much more relatable for everybody else. I have a gem, right? If I had just gotten this easy the first time around, I wouldn't have been blessed to have the gem of the testimony and story that I have right now. I wouldn't have been blessed with the opportunity to share the wealthy legacy journey with you guys from starting over from ground zero. And that's what's exciting to me. But you have to remember, like this says, plant 5 to 10 times as many seeds as you want apple trees. But then from there, don't just walk away and do nothing with them. Water and cover the seedlings. After you place all the seedlings in the holes, water the pot in each soil. Keep watering, keep cultivating, keep taking care of them. Then you'll see a sproutling. You're not going to see a sproutling and immediately have apple fruit, right? It's going to have to grow. You're going to have to groom it. You're going to have to take care of it until it grows to a big tree. And then years later, it'll produce fruit. Second question. How long does it take for an apple tree to bear fruit from seed? Here's the answer. Dwarf apple trees will start bearing fruit 2 to 3 years after planting. Whereas standard size trees can take up to 8 years to bear fruit. Dwarf trees, 2 to 3 years. Standard size apple trees, up to 8 years. It doesn't happen overnight, but once it happens big. Final question. Well, how many apples can an apple tree produce a year? Here's the answer. That depends on the size of the tree. And the newer high density plantings with trees on dwarfling rootstocks, growers can expect a harvest of 2 to 300 apples per year. In older apple plantings, the number of apple trees, this is the full size tree, the number of apples per tree could be 700 to 800 apples per year. Per tree per year. So the dwarf ones, 2 to 3 years, they start producing fruit. They'll be expected to get 2 to 300 apples per year, per tree per year. So you might have had to plant a 10 to 1. So let's just say you plant 10, you plant 100 seeds and you ended up getting 10 trees. 3 years later, now all of a sudden you're getting 2 to 3,000 apples a year. I'm pretty sure that you're not going to be able to consume that many apples in a year. I couldn't even probably consume a single one tree, 2 to 300 apples per year. But it took 2 to 3 years. And that was on a dwarf tree. If you're trying to grow something full size, the big ones, those take up to 8 years to bear fruit. But once they do, you're looking at 700 to 800 apples per year per tree. That's something. But it takes time. It really does take time. But once you get to that point, that tipping point, right? If you think about it, like if you were walking on, if you have like a triangle thing and then you got like a ramp on the top and you were like walking with it's like a seesaw kind of deal. If you're walking across it, at some point it's going to tilt the other direction, right? So as you're walking, you start at the bottom, you're walking. In that case, you're planting seeds, taking care of seeds, growing them. Maybe you have a bad winter, kills some of your plants. You're struggling through, you're fighting. But all of a sudden you get to that middle point and the whole thing, this like ramp that's on here, if you had goodness, I have a blank piece of paper. Here we go. Okay. I'm talking like if you had, okay. If you're looking at this on YouTube, this will give you kind of a better see it there. So as you're walking up, right? Eventually, once you get to the middle, this seesaw goes flat on the pivot point. And that's all of a sudden when you start seeing the first buds and maybe a little bit of the first fruit. All of a sudden, when you're getting 2 to 300, or if you plant the big ones, 700 to 800 apples per year, you've stepped on the other side of this seesaw and you are going. But it takes time to get there. It takes lots of seeds, it takes lots of caring for, it takes years of waiting to see the fruit that you're going for. But then one day you have mature trees and you have more than enough fruit. You have more fruit than you even know what to do with. And you know what you get to do with all that extra fruit? You get to pass it off and you get to be a blessing. Here's the end of the text. This will take time. So enjoy the day-to-day journey. And then if you do it well, one day, quote unquote, all of a sudden, you'll have a plethora of beautiful trees producing a number of fruit well beyond what you could ever hope to consume yourself. And everything extra is your opportunity to be a blessing. And so don't hold me to this. I don't know for sure if we're going to do it, but Livy and I have been talking as kind of like what, for her show, Becoming Me, and my show, The Wealthy Legacy Journey. And in talking, it was like we thought it'd be really cool if we actually planted some fruit trees together this spring. And took the next few years to grow them up. This isn't our forever property where we're living right now, but we thought, they can stay in pots for a while. We'll take care of these trees. We'll build them up. And then maybe at the next property, we'll plant them. And we'll see if we can get them to produce fruit. We know it's going to be a process that takes years, but I thought, how fun would that be to see these trees grow up over the duration of the shows that we're doing? So that might be coming this spring. It's going to be a very slow process process. And I'm not going to show it every week because it's not going to look different week to week. Month to month, you might see something. Quarter by quarter, you'll definitely see some growth. If I showed it to you once a year, you're going to see huge changes in between. So we'll figure out the timeline that makes sense on that if that's something that we end up doing. But I think it would be kind of a fun thing. Here's kind of the final note that I wanted to share with you guys today. This came from also from my 1 year devotional by I'm gonna have to really Nikki Gumbel. I'm gonna have to work on getting that name cemented in my brain. Are you worrying about the future, your health, your job, your family, or your finances? Make a decision today not to worry. Corey Ten Boom said, worrying is carrying tomorrow's load with today's strength, carrying 2 days at once. It is moving into tomorrow ahead of time. Trust God and learn to live one day at a time. I want to read you guys this passage actually that I read this morning. It was really good. It's Exodus chapter 16, 4 through 20. Make sure you stick around to the end because I got a really cool thing I want to share at the end with you guys. Then the Lord said to Moses, I will rain down bread from heaven for you. The people are to go out each day and gather enough for that day. In this way, I will test them to see whether they follow my instructions. On the 6th day, they are to prepare what they bring in, and that is to be twice as much as they gather on the other days. So Moses and Aaron said to all the Israelites, in the evening you will know that it was the Lord who brought you out of Egypt, and in the morning you will see the glory of the Lord. Because he has heard your grumbling against him, who are we that you should grumble against us? Moses also said, you will know that it was the Lord when he gives you meat to eat in the evening, and all the bread you want in the morning. Because he has heard your grumbling against him, who are we? You are not grumbling against us, but against the Lord. Then Moses told Aaron, say to the entire Israelite community, come before the Lord, for he has heard your grumbling. While Aaron was speaking to the whole Israelite community, they looked toward the desert, and there was the glory of the Lord appearing in the cloud. The Lord said to Moses, I have heard the grumbling of the Israelites. Tell them, at twilight you will eat meat, and in the morning you will be filled with bread. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God. That evening quail came and covered the camp, and in the morning there was a layer of dew around the camp. When the dew was gone, thin flakes of frost appeared on the ground. Thin flakes like frost on the ground appeared on the desert floor. When the Israelites saw it, they said to each other, what is it? For they did not know what it was. Moses said to them, it is the bread the Lord has given you to eat. This is what the Lord has commanded. Everyone is to gather as much as they need. Take an omer for each person you have in your tent. The Israelites did as they were told. Some gathered much, some gathered little. And when they had measured it out by the omer, the one who gathered much did not have too much. The one who gathered little did not have too little. Everyone had gathered just as much as they needed. Then Moses said to them, no one is to keep any of it until morning. However, some of them paid no attention to Moses. They kept part of it until morning, but it was full of maggots and began to smell. So Moses was angry with them. And then it goes on. But I saw in this passage that God promises to provide, but only one day at a time sometimes. And if you fast forward, so the Israelites left Egypt in the desert, God provides the manna. But then a little bit later on, when they cross the Jordan into the promised land, the manna stops. But now they're in a new season, right? So in this season, God's providing manna one day at a time. But then there's another level of faith required to step from this season into the next season for the Israelites as they go into the promised land. And so the level of faith that we have to display to trust God one day at a time right now, as we're building at the beginning of this, right? As we're at the bottom of this ramp, we're climbing up, we're trusting God to provide, but then the seesaw tilts and we're going on the back half of that, seesaw, it changes, right? The game changes. We still have to trust in God, but it's a new level of faith, a new kind of faith as we conquer new frontiers in different battles in different frontiers. So Jesus taught us to pray, give us this day our daily bread. Trust God that he will provide for you just when you need it. So for me, my personal concerns about some economic changes that we're seeing right now and that they're predicting into the future, as well as I do a lot of study on cyclical economics and how that works historically. If you're curious about any of this stuff, Mike Maloney has a really cool 10-part series on it that I have posted in the Google Doc. That's the resources link in the top of the comments or not comments, the description, as well as Ray Daly, who has a really cool one, The Changing World Order, and I think it's like How Economy Works or How the Economic Machine Works or something like that. And both of those are also in the resources Google Docs, so make sure you go check those out. But I realized when I read this verse, just take it one day at a time and trust in his provision. And I have to remember we started with nothing. And even if we build up and then we go back to nothing, the skill sets to grow wealth will still be there to grow with me again. They're still going to be there with you to grow again. If you build up, you have to restart. You might restart financially, but you don't restart mentally. You keep moving forward, but that's a choice. So this is my third time around on this journey, and but I can say that I'm a whole lot different person now than I was 2 times ago. And the guy back then wouldn't have been able to see a thing through the same way that I'm working to see a thing through right now, including this show. Right now, I'm planting seeds. I'm planting lots of seeds. I think this is episode 31, so maybe I planted 31 seeds at this point, and I'm watering those pots. I'm watering the soil, and I'm telling some people about it. And we'll see what we can grow out of this. But I know that if I plant good seeds, the fruit that I'll be able to produce from it will be good, and or the trees will be good, and eventually they'll produce fruit. It might take a few years, but that's why we plant seeds, is for a few years down the road. With that said, guys, I was thinking about how I want to close out these episodes, and I realized I think it would be so powerful for us to go over our identity mantra as wealthy legacy journeyers together. And so, as you guys know, on my home screen of my computer, I have this written down, but I'm going to say this with you guys, and I want you to say it after me. I explore the unknown. Say it out loud. If you didn't just say it out loud, I want you to say it out loud. If you did, we're going to say it out loud again. I'm going to say it. I want you to say it out loud with me. I explore the unknown. I conquer new frontiers. My journey is powerful, and my wake is a wealthy legacy. That is our mantra. I want to remind you guys what it means, what wealthy, how we define wealthy around here, and how we define legacy around here. So, wealthy is simply put the ability to cover your monthly expenses without having to lift a finger. Basically, it gives you financial freedom. Legacy is leaving a long lasting impact on others who come after you as they receive the fruit of your labor, whether that fruit be good or bad. I want to remind you guys, everybody leaves a legacy. You will leave something behind. People will remember you for something. Maybe a few people will remember you for something. Maybe a lot of people will remember you for something. You could have a lot of people that remember you for something bad, or a couple people that remember you for something good. Or you could have only a couple people that remember you for something bad, and a whole bunch, or you might have a whole bunch of people that remember you for something good. There's going to be some size of group that remembers you for something, whether it be bad or good. Whether it be bad or good, though, that's in your hands. That's the legacy that you choose to create. And that fruit being good or bad, well, the Bible says that a good tree produces good fruit and a bad tree produces bad fruit. And so that goes back to what we were talking about. So plant the seeds that you want to see the fruit from. Remember how many seeds it takes to plant. You're going to plant a lot of seeds. It's going to take a lot of care, a lot of cultivating, but one day you're going to get to taste of the fruit. So if you're going to have to choose between good fruit and bad fruit that you're going to taste a couple years from now, what would you choose? And if right now in your life you're tasting a whole bunch of bad fruit, look back a couple years ago to what seeds you were planting, and you might just be tasting the fruit of some of those decisions that you made, some of those seeds that you planted. I know I am. I can look back to a few years ago. I was planting some good seeds, but I was definitely planting some bad seeds in there as well. My mindset has come so much further since then, but it was those bad seeds intermixed with the good seeds that ended up killing my momentum a few times. It created some of those winter storms that knocked out the crop. But I'm starting over, and it's going to be good. So all you can really focus on, and I get it. If you've had moments and opportunities you look in the past and go, man, I wish, I call them my woulda, coulda, shouldas. Don't do that to yourself. Start with where you're at right now and remember what it's all about. Planting seeds, growing trees, and staying focused. With that said, guys, it was awesome hanging out with you guys for another week of the Wealthy legacy journey. I encourage you to go out there, explore the unknown, conquer some new frontiers, have a powerful journey, leave a wake that is a wealthy legacy journey. Until next time, this has been another episode dedicated to you and your own personal wealthy legacy journey. Thanks for hanging out, guys, and I will see y'all next week.